Alright, so we're going to work on the airbag clock spring removal and replacement on this '06 Malibu. First thing we're going to do is we're going to grab I use a small Allen wrench. Not sure what size this is. There's a hole in the back of the steering wheel. Let's see if we can see it. Where are you? There you are. This hole right here. If we stick this Allen wrench in, you're going to stick it straight in towards the steering column, and you're going to feel it pop a little clip. At that time, this airbag will pop out a little bit. Now this car has the battery removed, so we don't have to worry about that. But if you have a battery in your car, remove your battery, disconnect the negative terminal. We're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. And you see I missed. It just pushes in. You don't feel it click. Pushes in, small click, and the airbag will come right out. How that works, just to explain it, over here you have these holes here. I'm going to slide that Allen wrench in and out. What that does is it just pushes this spring out of the way. My Allen wrench is down by the bottom hole, you can't see it. And it pushes that spring away from these little tits. When you put the airbag back in, this just slides in and the clip stays in here. That's why you can't pull the airbag out. Now with that removed, we're going to take a small flat blade screwdriver. There is watch my camera here, there's a clip which has to pry up. We're doing this one-handed today. Once that clip pries up, now you can squeeze here on this tab, and there's a tab over here. Squeeze at the same time. I prefer to use a long needle nose pliers, and we grab those clips and simply pull the plug out. Now we're going to do the same for this plug. I'll turn him so you can see what's going on. I'm just going to pry him up and out of the way. It's just a little safety retainer that stops these plugs from going in, and the airbag comes out. Now, never store an airbag flat like this. If it accidentally deploys, which is virtually impossible, the entire apparatus will go flying, and you don't want that. Next thing we're going to grab is a torx bit. We're going to grab a T27 torx bit, and we're going to remove these 4 torx bolts. They can be on there fairly tight, and it's a very coarse thread. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove these. Since I have both hands, you don't need to watch that. I'll remove those and we'll come back. Alright, now that we've got these 4 bolts out, there's 2 more smaller torx bolts, which is going to be a T20 torx bit. We're going to remove those, which I've loosened this one up already. And here is the second one. Take and remove that bolt. You can also remove the Allen wrench that you forgot about. And now this whole horn assembly is going to pull out. But first, before we remove this, because I forgot, this blue plug needs to come out. Now it's going to be a little hard to see. I'll have to show you after we take it out. There's a clip in here. You pry this clip up and then pull the plug out. One-handed, this is going to be fun. I'll come back to that. Alright, we got her. So inside here, there is there you go, now you can see it. This little tab needs to be lifted upwards towards the gauge cluster to release from this little titlet. And then this guy comes, fold him out of the way. Make sure that these wires are going to clear as you pull the center horn section out. Set this off to the side. Now we need to remove the steering wheel. You can get a steering wheel puller from any of your auto parts stores. They'll normally rent them for free. There is a 21 millimeter nut on the center of there. Oh, there's going to be some editing in this video. I'll get this nut loose and I'll show you how I remove the steering wheel. Alright, we take our nut off so that the threads are just protruding from the nut. Focus for me. There we go. Now, you can rent a puller. What I do is I take a hammer, I prop my knees up under the wheel, and I give one strike, and I'll pull with my knees and I'll hit the nut. And the steering wheel comes loose. Now we take the lock nut off and the steering wheel will remove from the vehicle. Now at this point you need to pay attention because the clock spring is nothing more than it's like several wires wrapped around, and you want to keep this in the center. You don't want to turn the wheel 4 or 5 turns, it'll mess the clock spring up. So when we take the wheel off, we have to keep this clock spring centered with itself. We don't want to let it turn around and around and around, and then we don't know which spot it stopped in to be in the center. So we'll remove the steering wheel single-handedly. As you can see, I just turned the clock spring to the left a quarter turn. So we're going to turn that back, so we don't want to forget where it's supposed to be. So we'll turn him back to the center. Now we know where he is. Now on the bottom of the steering column, there is 3 7 millimeter bolts. So we're going to grab our 7 millimeter and take these out, and then we'll remove the plastic cover from around the column. I'll pull these out and we'll come back to that. Alright, we've got our bolts removed from this. Now there's a clip here and a clip here. With a little bit of force, it'll just pull apart. This bottom section will come down and off of the tilt adjuster. Show you where the bolts are. There's where the 3 7 millimeter bolts are. Now we can pry him up out of the top cover up out of the way, and there's going to be 4 screws. One here, here, and here. I'm going to remove those screws, and then we'll remove the clock spring. Alright, I've got our 4 bolts removed, or screws removed now. So now the last thing to do, on top of here, there's a clip here. This needs to be pried. There we go, we got to pay attention to the camera. There's a clip here that needs to be pried up, and then this plug can be pulled this way out of here. This little safety device, pay attention, this little safety device gets pried backwards, out and away, and then this yellow part gets pushed down to release these 2 clips, and the clock spring will pull directly off the steering column. I'll unplug those plugs and show you. Alright, I've got the first plug off, and I wanted to show you the second one. Again, make sure you don't turn your clock spring. You want to keep it in dead ahead center. Now, with this red plug pulled out, you will be able to push down on this yellow part, and the plug will pull right out. Here's what the back of it looks like. And now we can reinstall it in our car that's malfunctioning.